You are now tuned into Daily Discussions with Dena. Join in the discussion right here, Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m.
Good afternoon. I am Dena, and this is Discussions with Dena. I want to invite you to join me right here Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for a afternoon discussion with Dena. Today I want to discuss one of the many issues in the media today, and that is, of course, the unresolved solutions and some of the problems resulting from illegal immigration. Now, I, like most people here in America, and I'm talking about Black people exclusively, we are some of the most compassionate people that there are. And we always show compassion for those that are in need because we understand and have experienced so much here. So when we are discussing immigration, it is important that we look at the full scope of it and its effect on our community as well. And that includes the people that benefit as well as those that are harmed by some of the after effects of illegal immigration and allowing illegal immigration in our community and in our neighborhoods. Recently in Chicago, Woodland residents pushed back, and rightfully so, against the city's plan to house migrants or illegal immigrants in an old Wadsworth school building. I would like for you to take a listen to what some of the residents had to say at a rally.
We are very disappointed in this decision that Mayor Lightfoot has made to place these migrants in our community without our permission. Mayor Lightfoot would never pull this type of thing in anyone's neighborhood. She would not drop off a busload of Haitians in Little Village. She would not drop off a busload of Black people in Chinatown. She would not drop off a busload of Black people up north. Never. So it's time for Mayor Lightfoot to understand we will no longer be disrespected by you, ma'am. Please withdraw your decision to put the migrants in our community. There's plenty of room in Little Village for their people. Please speak to Little Village and take them over there. We're not hating on anyone, but we are loving on Woodlawn. That's right. As well, we already are struggling with the issue of fentanyl in our communities. We don't need anything else to add to the struggles that we already have. If there is a lack of resources in our community, we don't need anyone else to come in and suck those up. That's right. We're tired, Miss Lightfoot. We're tired, and we will not be voting for you. Thank you. Really?
Residents gathered to protest this so-called proposal to shelter these immigrants here. And they wanted to express their deep frustration for being overlooked. And they were not even informed in advance of their having to do this or planning to do this. The community was not asked at all how they felt about this. And this is something that I know, had this been a white community, would not have been acceptable. One person actually spoke out and asked a valid question, and that was, why can't they be housed in Little Village, which is a Latino community? And they expressed that this community had plenty of room for their people. And others even presented their fear of Central American gangs, and that's rightly so. If you have kept up with anything that has been going on in these countries, which many of them come from, they are gang-ridden places. And I'm sure that some of them have already been a part of this so-called asylum seeking group. They are, and that is not to be negative, but it is expected, especially when you see what items are often taken off of some of these people, of course not everyone, then you know that some of these people are being brought into our so-called community. Over 100 community members attended a meeting at the Apostolic Church of God in Chicago, and it was concerning the city's plan to house these so-called asylum seekers at this former school. One of the people by the name of Keith White, he actually stood up during this public meeting to express that he has lived in the South Side of Chicago, in this community, about 30 years. And he wanted to know why they just now decided to fix up this building. And this is a valid concern. This could have been used for the people that already live there and that exist there now. And it was also expressed during the rally that the Latino migrants will need services in Spanish. So it makes no sense to place them in a black community where there are very little resources here. So you are going to be using money and funds and resources and sending it directly to them. Can you imagine what could have been done in that same exact neighborhood with those funds to benefit the citizens, the residents that are already there at this time? Now, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, these people or immigrants will have access to case managers and have the opportunity to attend English classes according to the city, but you will need an interpreter for most of them. The city actually delayed the opening of this shelter for about 2 weeks, so it says, following the pushback from community members over being left out of the decision-making process, and they should have been a part of that. Why did they choose this location? Now and when I say she, I'm referring to Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She had announced plans to regularly send updates to Alderman Jeanette Taylor, whose 20th ward includes this shelter. And she wanted to facilitate monthly community meetings, but this is after the fact. She had already chosen this. She did not seek the public's opinion or thoughts on this. She didn't ask them if they wanted this in their town, in their neighborhood. There are suburbs you could have took these people to. Since late August, Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott has sent hundreds of asylum seekers to Democratically led cities like Chicago. More than 5,146 had arrived on chartered buses from Texas, according to city officials. And in addition, the city had already provided services to at least 1,500 other recently people that came from over the border. So it has been a constant influx of these people into these small black neighborhoods. And they've been arriving in Chicago for a very long time, being bused from other places. And it has to be something said about this and done about this, because there is no way that this is not impacting the already existing residents of that community. And this is something most people don't want to discuss, but it is certainly something that needs to be discussed, because it is heavily weighing on the resources in those areas. And we just can't ignore the arrogance of these people making these decisions. And you have to ask, what is the agenda here? Because there's certainly a agenda here. Brandy Kanazi, who is the commissioner for the city's Department of Family and Support Services, apologized to this crowd of people that were here at this meeting. And she said she wanted to emphasize that it was a huge mistake not to speak to the community about the shelter. You think? I think it was an agenda all along, and she knew very well that it was a part of a bigger agenda. Now, the apology did little to soothe the Southside residents at this so-called forum, who pointed out that the city planned to move forward with the shelter despite the community's feedback anyway, which tells you people there is an agenda here. One thing in particular that I have noticed in this neighborhood around me is that it is a predominantly black neighborhood, and I noticed that there was this huge number of immigrants because I started to see them in all of the places that we frequent. In particular is this business called Chick-fil-A, and it is located right smack in the center of a black neighborhood. And when you go to these places, you become accustomed to seeing the same people. And my husband and I went there, and we were looking and we couldn't find any black people. All of the black people that would customarily be serving us, they were actually replaced by Hispanics or Latinos or whatever they call themselves, but they were no longer black. Mind you, this is a completely black neighborhood. I would say it's 99.9% black. And we couldn't find black people at this point. So this impacts us, and this is not any racist talk or anything. It's just something that is factual. And you have to wonder when you have these people come in and take these positions, because this particular, and not just this one, but several other restaurants were hiring, and they were paying $15 an hour for these people to work there. So if you bring in these immigrants, illegal immigrants, into the country, or you allow them to just come in, what happens is these businesses are no longer paying that $15 an hour that our people were accustomed to getting. They are reducing it back down to $7.25. That does not help us. And then you think about the cost of living today, and it is a great impact. And then you have to look at what is happening around our community, because as much as we don't like to talk about it, these people can come with issues. I'm not saying exclusively, but yes, there are many of them that I have seen where they've taken away drugs, they've taken away weapons. Many of them were noted gang members. It's true. That's not all of them, but these are people that are part of this group that they are allowing into our neighborhoods. So these are legitimate questions. These are legitimate concerns. And this is a legitimate reason for real action among us to take. Because what will our neighborhood look like in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? We already have a problem with black businesses existing and trying to exist in our neighborhoods, because as we know, we can call it a black neighborhood, but among the businesses, we rarely find that black people own this stuff. They're usually foreigners. So what happens when they come into our neighborhoods? There's usually a problem with housing. And have anyone else besides myself noticed the number of homeless black people today? Imagine if they had taken that school in that neighborhood and actually fixed it up and made affordable housing available to the residents there. And they said they were going to be providing security to these immigrants, provide security for the residents that were already there. Can you imagine how that would have really helped and impacted the community? So these are real issues that we do need to discuss. There's an agenda here, and nobody wants to speak about it because it's taboo, and people are guilty of trying to incite or try to relate these concerns as being racist, and they are not. These are things that we definitely need to be discussing amongst ourselves and taking it to these people that are in positions of authority, because they're not doing it in every neighborhood. They're doing it in our neighborhood. And that is a reason for concern. Since the Biden administration has taken office, there has been a considerable, sizable number of illegals that have crossed into the country. And not only did they cross, they were just allowed in. and they were rewarded for coming here illegally. And they were rewarded with various resources directly from the American government. I remember when Biden was requesting billions to help pay for these people that came here illegally. It included transportation, housing, food, clothing, medical care, and many other significant benefits. And amazingly, these same benefits are often denied or unavailable to actual citizens that are already here and are in need of these specific services. So for every illegal citizen, there has to be at least 10 legal citizens here that are already citizens that could have really benefited from the same opportunities. I know this is a taboo subject because people don't want to be labeled or have labels upon them, but if we sit back and we do nothing, we have to imagine how this will affect us. Because when there was a hefty number of Haitians awaiting entrance into the United States, the Biden administration was not this patient and compassionate. They used Border Patrol and they requested extra assistance in rounding up these black Haitians and even chartering airplanes. They loaded them up in these planes and they took them all back to where they came from, Haiti. So there wasn't a squeak heard from any politician, any group talking about how can we help these people or bring them back or allow them in and give them asylum. We didn't hear that. But with this current crisis, which is obviously being dealt with in a more kinder, more gentler manner than they dealt with the black people. And it is because these are a majority of Mexicans or Latinos or whatever you would label them from different countries other than exclusively black countries or predominantly black countries. So this is something that we can't deny. There's no denying the number of these migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border dramatically rose during Biden's first 2 years in office. Over 2.38 million stops during the year. That was back in September. It was the first time in history that the number ever topped 2 million. So the Biden administration seems to be okay with it. And it barely took any measures to clamp down on crossing, unlike Trump did. And rightfully so. In fact, Biden requested more funding from Congress. It makes no sense. I mean, you cannot look at this issue and not see that there is an agenda here. Epoch Times reported in 2022 that $324 million was spent alone on health care for illegals. And that amount will more than double this year, while 30 million American citizens do not even have health care. Most cannot even afford to get health care. But you take this kind of money and you give it to non-citizens. There has to be an agenda here. That $324 million does not even include what is being spent on housing, food, clothing, and transportation for these illegal immigrants around the country. So currently, there has been reports of over 5.5 million illegal immigrants encountered at the borders just since Biden took office, according to the report from the Federation for American Immigration Report, and is referred to as FAIR. Now, this organization also estimates in their report that roughly 2.4 million illegal immigrants either entered the country undetected or were released into this country. And this is, of course, an estimate, but it's probably larger. And it came from what they did was they estimated how large that would amount to. And what they did was included populations in Wyoming, Idaho, Nebraska, New Mexico, Hawaii, Alaska, Vermont, Delaware, West Virginia, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Montana, North Dakota or South Dakota, a full 15 states. Now, where are all these people going? You cannot tell me that this does not affect the resources here. Now, the Federation for Immigration also notes that Border Patrol agents encountered 98 known or suspected terrorists in fiscal year 2022, not including the terrorists who may be embedded within the 1.1 million illegal aliens who evade or have evaded law enforcement and have been able to enter into the United States. It is a drastic increase from the years before. There was only 15 known or suspected terrorists that were encountered in 2021 and 3 encountered in 2020. Then 2019, they have 0. They don't have any that were actually shown at that time. Then they say that 856 of the people that were trying to get into the country actually died. They were reported on the southern border. And the Federation for American Immigration also denotes that more fentanyl has crossed the last 2 months during the Biden administration than did in the entirety of fiscal year 2019 under the Trump administration. In just the last month, more than 414 million lethal doses of fentanyl were seized. Over 1 billion lethal doses of fentanyl have been seized at the border during the fiscal year of 2022. This is absolutely amazing. Yet they are constantly allowing them to be brought into. And it is said because of the open borders and the policies that are implemented by Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas that this person was appointed by President Joe Biden, and the person that is the president of the Federation for American Immigrants contended that these things are attributed to Alejandro Mayorkas. Some of the oversight and deliberate sabotage of the immigration laws that he used and made during his position as he was in office. So he felt like this person should have been impeached and that it was a disgrace to Congress to see this. But anyway, other Democratic senators and candidates have also enabled this border crisis to continue, and they have rejected border security measures that would have helped stop the number of people that were crossing the border illegally. They didn't want to stop it. So there are quite many of them out here that were for this continued influx of illegal aliens. And there were some, such as Democrat Tim Ryan of Ohio, who voted to defund the border wall. Ryan also voted to increase the number of immigrant visas and to fund the transportation of these illegals deeper into America, thereby making it more difficult for them to be deported. Democrats such as Senator Raphael Warnock, and he's of Georgia, and Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, they have also voted against border security measures. Now, there were policy changes that were announced some weeks ago by the Biden administration that deals with containing illegal border crossings and turning away tens of thousands, so they say, of illegal immigrants arriving at the border. But they stating that 30,000 migrants will still be allowed to enter per month from Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela legally as long as they travel by plane, get a sponsor, and pass background checks. Let's see how long that lasts. It further states that the United States will begin to turn away legal immigrants who do not seek asylum first in a country they traveled through en route to the United States. And these immigrants will also be asked to complete a form on a phone app so that they can go to a port of entry at a pre-scheduled date and time. And just how effective do we really think this will be for curbing this onslaught? Now last week, Biden was supposed to take a visit to the border, and it was supposed to be an opportunity just to quell the political noise and lessen the impact of investigations into immigration that was promised by the House Republicans. But can we really expect any solutions from this Congress? This is a Congress that, like previous Congresses, were divided, and they fail all the time with anything that they're trying to actually accomplish. And I am not expecting any real change when it comes to illegal immigrants. But we have to note how swift change was when there were Black or Haitian, when they were more melanated immigrants at that border. There was no hesitation about what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But anyway, the president was supposed to go visit El Paso, Mexico, and then he was supposed to go on into Canada last week, where there was supposed to be a conversation with other leaders in regards to solutions for halting the onslaught of these immigrants. But as always, I am not expecting anything to come from this, but to be transforming old schools into shelters and finding places in Black neighborhoods and community resources. And you can just imagine how this could have been helpful to those people within those neighborhoods. So this is a serious conversation that we are having and should be having. And what can we expect from this? I want to know your thoughts on this particular issue. Subscribe and leave your thoughts and comments on this topic. And be sure to join me Monday through Friday for your daily dose of Discussions with Dena.
This concludes your daily Discussions with Dena. Join us Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.